My name's Katrin Moye and I'm a ceramic artist. And right now I'm the artist in residence at Nottingham Lakeside Art Centre, which is a really good opportunity for me to take a little bit of time away from my normal practice and try and think about ideas that I've been having over the last few years and put them into my creative practice a little bit. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what I do normally and my plans for this year. Before I started on the residency, Lakeside had a big exhibition of Winifred Nicholson still life paintings, and she's one of my favourite artists, and they asked me to make some work to sell in their shop alongside this exhibition. So I had this great idea that I would make ceramic jugs from the painted jugs in some of Winifred's still life paintings, and that worked out so well that I mentioned it to the shop floor project and they said, oh yeah, do more. And so I've got Mary Fedden, Vanessa Bell and more Winifred Nicholson. So I made a collection of 3 or 4 pieces from paintings from each of those artists. And the nice thing about them is that they're all 20th century British women artists, and they're some of my favourite artists, and it felt like a really exciting kind of privilege to make work from their original paintings. I've always really loved working with clay ever since I was really small. I think it appeals to me particularly because it's such a down-to-earth kind of a material. You literally dig it up out of the ground and you can make really beautiful things with it just with your hands. And everybody who works with clay makes something totally unique to them. And all of the value in a clay object really is from what a maker has done to this basic material, and I really like that about it. It's really versatile. You can make a very refined and delicate, highly decorated piece, or you can go completely the other way and look like you've made something that looks like it's dug up out of the ground that's 3,000 years old from the Neolithic age, and all of the things in between those two extremes. It's a great material to work with. But what I particularly like doing with clay is working on the wheel, and I find that quite magical, that you can start off with a lump of clay and then just transform it just with your hands and the spinning motion of the wheel into a really beautiful, regular, even, round shape, and it's just like magic every time. I don't think I'll ever lose that excitement of seeing something growing underneath my fingers out of a ball of clay on the wheel. What I like to do is to make a nice, smooth, regular, even shape which acts as a canvas for my decorative style, which is quite detailed and intricate. So I don't really want any texture or lumps getting in between the surface of the clay and the decorations that I put on them. So that's what I've been doing up till now. My normal decorative style is to be very tight and controlled, and I use techniques like paper cut resist, and I use a very fine nib underglaze pen to do the little tiny dots as the detail. And I work on a kind of a grid formation, so it will be a symmetrical or parallel lines pattern which I build up with more and more detail, which kind of lends itself really well to the natural motifs that I like to show on my work, like snowflakes and trees and leaves. I've always loved these natural motifs, and I like to kind of tidy them up and make them look perfect on the surface decoration. And that's kind of links in with my love of Eastern European folk art and mid-century decorative art as well, that you see a natural form, but it's really nicely neat and tidy and symmetrical. I love that look. Over the last few years I've been thinking about the relationships people have with objects that they use all the time over and over again in their house, and I do this myself. I got a special cup that I use for my cup of tea first thing in the morning, and it has to be that cup, otherwise it's wrong. And I know lots of people do that. I've got customers that come back and tell me that an object that they've bought for me, like a plate or something, reminds them of their mother, or a special event like a wedding or a birthday. And that's just made me start thinking about how particular people have particular relationships with objects, and no two people have the same association with an object that's unique to them. So, for instance, a mass-produced plate or cup that you buy from a shop will mean a completely different thing to each person that owns a copy of that object, and I'm really intrigued by that idea. Because I did English as a degree, I was familiar with this literary theory called reception theory, which is exactly that idea that no two people read the same text in the same way. So if you were to read Jane Eyre and I was to read Jane Eyre, we two would read a completely different novel, and I find that really interesting. I'd like to investigate that idea in terms of three-dimensional objects this year. So I'm going to be hopefully working with students and asking them about special objects that they can't bring with them to university, and I will make a version of that thing out of clay from their description rather than a photograph. So it's my take on their special object, and that's what I'm going to do this year in my residency.